I can't just sit around and wait for parts. There's a lot of other things I could be doing on the car. I'll start with this subframe and I'll put it in the car. And once the subframe's in the car, I'm gonna bolt the trans up to the motor, put the header and the turbo back on, and then drop the motor in. It's not gonna have a clutch kit on it, but it will have all of the major components connected because I need to put the motor in here so I can start doing the tubs and the intercooler piping. And I've made the mistake before of just doing tubs right away, and I ended up making it really difficult to fit intercooler piping in here. So I've learned my lesson, and this time I'm putting the motor in first, test fitting everything, taking the motor out, and then finishing the welds. So let's get to it. We're going to have to start with taking off these old KA-SR engine mounts so that we can put these RB relocation mounts on the subframe. Rusty. So now that we got those off, these are directional, meaning this one should not go on this side, but it should go on this side. And then you can see it'll just bolt on there. That'll relocate the RB mounts that far forward. And I put this side on. Looks like it's hitting a tab right here. So I'm gonna have to shave this smooth. And then you can see that there's also a hole on the bottom of this. You're supposed to mark your hole and then drill it out here on the subframe. So then you have two bolts holding these mounts on. But on my last subframe, I just straight welded these onto the subframe. I don't know if I want to do that this time. Much better. So both mounts are on there, and I ended up grinding away all of the paint and the gunk that was in between the subframe and the new mount because I might just weld these on there once it's in the car. But before I weld them on there, I want to mount the RB on top of these mounts. That way I know for sure they're in the correct spot because these do have a lot of movement in these slots here. So I'm going to play it safe and just make sure it fits before I weld it into position. But at this point, the subframe is good to go on the car. So let's slap it in there. Perfect. It's looking pretty cool in there. Now we can start working on the engine. I am going to need to put this header back on, but I only had a couple good studs, but that's okay because this is just a temporary mount. So once I put the header on, I need to put the turbo on, and then we'll start working on getting the transmission bolted back on. Unfortunately, these studs were not threading in here very nicely. So I'm going to have to go through all of the stud holes and re-tap them. Just running a tab through it kind of cleans out the threads. Some of the threads got really damaged, so fingers crossed that they all come out okay. So far, so good. This one got a lot of debris out. A couple good tips for using a tap and die set. Number one, patience. You do not want to rush this. You want to make sure that you're putting this in as straight as possible, because if you have it slightly crooked, you'll just be re-tapping the threads sideways. You'll be literally tapping your threads cross-threaded. Don't want to do that. I put a drop or two of oil on these just to let it glide easier. And last, and I think most important, if you feel your bits start to get stuck, don't crank it over because these are really hardened. They're not designed to withstand warpage. So it'll reach its breaking point a lot faster because it's not designed to flex. And if you snap one of these inside, which I've seen plenty of times, like you're almost never gonna get that out. Like it's so hard to get these out. So basically just take your time doing this. It should just be like a known fact that if you see this kit out when you're walking into someone's garage, just be walking on eggshells. Well, it took my time and I successfully re-tapped 12 of these holes. And thank God they all came out fine. They thread in like no problem now. I think it is kind of nuts that every single thread was damaged. That just shows the importance of putting a flex pipe on a lowered car, or basically any car at that point. Well, I just remembered I don't have any more header stud nuts because I welded them to the snap studs to get them out. So I'm not going to be able to put the header on right now, but that's okay. I can still put on the trans and then put on the new mounts for that as well. Yep, always putting bolts back where they go. Oh no, our coolant line is peeing. Now we got to put these mounts on. They go right here. And I got the bolts ready to go. Now in my case, these mounts are directional. So if you're putting together a motor, make sure you put the mounts on the correct side. Now we have the engine mounts on here. Let's start working on the trans mount. So this piece is actually the same as SR and KA, and it also works with this RB conversion mount. This just kind of goes up here onto these studs. So this cross member is actually slotted where it bolts onto the trans mount. So when I bolt these bolts on here, I'm not going to crank them down all the way because I need to make sure that this is going to fit under the car. So I'll have it loose enough so that I'll be able to adjust it if I need to. And since I'm not tightening those down, I'm going to put that on the to-do list because that would really not be good to just be driving around with a loose trans mount bolt. We got everything on the motor ready to go that we can. I'm gonna have to go pick up some more nuts for these, but there is one very important thing that I need to do before we can fit the RB into an S chassis. Does anyone know? Has anyone been here before? Well, since I replaced the firewall, that means I need to re-hammer out this whole section because the transmission is so big that it literally will not fit in the car. The first time I put my RB in this car, I did not know that, and I had just gotten the bay painted, and I was just beating up my freshly painted bay. So I definitely learned the hard way, but at least I know now. I really do wish there was a nicer way to do it, but that's definitely the most effective. Well, the last thing we need in order to put the motor back in to test fit is some of these nuts. So I have one of the extra studs. So we're gonna go to the house and get some extra hardware. Well, I was originally gonna match up all the nuts in here, but we're probably gonna need more. So let's just take the whole jar. Okay, now we have our 5 contenders, and let's get the header on there. And I will note that I did put the rest of the gasket on this header so the spacing is correct. And I'm going to be putting the old turbo gasket on here as well, because that could make a difference when test fitting everything. So let's get this on here next. This is now ready to go in. Oh man, this is going to be a lot of fun doing by myself. Let's see if we can do it. But there is one thing that I need to take off still. The shifter. Without taking this off, it'll be a pain to fit this under the trans tunnel. But that's okay, it's just a simple snap ring. There she goes. It's a good idea to put like a rag or a towel in this, because you don't want any debris going into your transmission. So as you all know, I've been doing a lot of welding on the car and under the car and in hard to reach places. And I've been wondering, how am I gonna get undercoating in those areas? And there's actually a kit by Eastwood, which I'm gonna use and show you guys how to use, that has a little straw in it. And it basically will coat the entire inside of a frame rail or a rocker panel even. It does come with a regular spray nozzle, but we're gonna use this nozzle with this hose and this little brass fitting. Now we'll feed this in this frame rail Well, it's definitely green. So I'm going to do this to the rest of the frame rails or anything that I can't get to, just to ensure this doesn't rust away. There we go. I will say it's pretty satisfying to see it oozing out of other areas when I inserted it here. It's definitely getting a good spread. All right, well, that's pretty satisfying. Have a couple more spots to do. And I will note, I'm not sponsored by these guys, but a lot of people left comments recommending to use this, so that's what I got. I also have a cavity wax as well, but I figured I would get a nice coat on the bare metal first. But yeah, so far so good. I can't tell you if it's gonna last because I'm just now using it for the first time. And just like that, I used the whole can. I am gonna save this nozzle though, just in case I need this for something else. Okay, now we're ready. I think I might actually have to move my Integra in order to back up the hoist enough. For a while I was struggling pretty hard there, but we ended up getting it in. It's good to see an engine back in the 240. It's been a while. Alright, well, there it is, man. I'll mount it up. Now we can start getting into the fun stuff and mocking up everything in the engine bay. Don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe if you want to see more. I also have some new shirt designs out and I'm super hyped on how they came out. Check them out and let me know what you think. Thanks, guys. So as you guys know, I've been looking for a hood for my 240. This is my girlfriend's 240 and she already has a hood. It's very nice. But today we're going to take it off because we're going to go pick up a hood from a friend for my car. And I found that the best way to transport hoods is to put the hood on the car that it fits and drive it, because there's no way it's going to fit inside of the car. First thing I like to do is outline where the hood is on this car so that when you put it back on, you'll know exactly where to line it up, because these are all slotted holes. This is one of those cars that you can actually feel pretty cool about driving around with no hood, especially because the bay has tubs and nice paint on it. Although we did want to get the valve cover paint matched. We'll probably do that eventually. But yeah, it looks pretty sick. Hopefully the police leave us alone for this drive there. Well, unfortunately I forgot to record picking up the hood, but here it is. There is a little scratch that's like indented right here, but I'm not too worried about that because it's straight, and that's mainly what we're looking for at this point. And he gave it to me for free, so I really can't complain. But I also picked up my very own bash bar, finally, because I've been borrowing someone else's this whole time. Now I have my own. And we're back to being hoodless. Sweet. Well, that's really cool that I have a hood now. But all right, on to the next adventure. If you guys have been watching the channel, you guys know that Seth has been having some issues with engines in his Civic. He's blown up 4 D series now, and he's finally decided to go B series. So we have found an Integra part out, so we're out here pulling a Bswap. Ready for your Bswap? It's almost ready to be yoinked. Nate brought his hoist too in the back of his Civic. This Integra also has a door handle, which I've been needing for my Integra because someone, not naming names, broke the passenger handle. And 2-door and 4-door handles are the same. Fun fact. But they're really hard to get off. Honda was nice enough to give you this nice little hole, fit your extension through, and you can get to that hard to reach bolt. I don't know if that's gonna fit in there.
Nah, it'll work because then we can turn it.
All right. No moving blankets?
Nope. Lower a little bit.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
All right, all right.
Maybe up a little bit. Or is that good?
Dude.
See, I said it would work.
Hey, the door's not closed yet, dude.
Might have to buzz the T-brake.
For real.
Although maybe it fits in the little holder. No, maybe. Nah, it's just lined up or something. Disconnect the hoist. Yeah, we'll just lift it.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep that piece on there.
There you go. They weighed the car down.
The car like is sitting down.
Alright.
Oh, watch it. Alright, now
Harder.
oh. Alright, now go park your car.
Oh. No straps. It's good.
It's good.
Oh my gosh. Certified work truck. This would be fun to put on. At least we got a new one. Or I guess a new used one. Since the hood was successfully transported, we can finally put the hood back on this car. Now I know a lot of you have been saying that we need to just paint Fran's car and get it over with, but we don't want to rush doing that. And also I think I want to finish my 240 before we dive into painting an entire car, because it's a lot of work. And as you guys have seen on my channel, I do all the work to all of our cars. I don't just drop it off somewhere and have someone else do it. So yeah, it's not a priority yet, but it will be.